Hey friend, I have been thinking a lot about business success, and I say that with quotes. The reason why I've been thinking about it is the way that we're used to measuring success has been reliable and is currently elusive. And what I mean by that is when we measure success, what we're usually doing is we're thinking about metrics. We're thinking about percentages and key performance indicators and benchmarking. And the reason why those things have gotten us to where we are now is because they've really allowed us to compare results this year from last year, compare our growth to where we want it to be. They're elusive because this unit of measure is totally gotten murky and squishy and gray, and the path ahead is gone for so many of us. And so when we don't have those things to rely on, we turn to the next thing. And the next thing has really been operational business questions. I mean, I don't know about you, but I have been finding myself asking these questions a lot. And they tend to sound like, how do I? Where do I? When do I? Why do I? How do I? And I love those questions. Keep asking those questions. They're really important because why in the world would we want to reinvent the wheel? We don't. We want to learn from the people that have come before us, but really in this situation, I don't think very many small businesses have come before us. And so, I don't want you to feel like some of the old ways and old planning ways will not serve you in the future. But in the face of murkiness and in the face of the wild unknown that we've always actually faced, there is some good news here. The one thing that has been true in the past, is currently true now, and will be true in the future, is that your brand values don't change. They don't change in worthiness. They don't change in relevance. And this is how we as creative entrepreneurs are using, these are the tools that we're using to help us navigate evaluating worthiness and taking risks and making choices, right? So that's what we're really here to talk about today. I don't know about you. I know I myself am making some very tough choices where the business values and the life values intersect. And in fact, I actually posted, I was just really curious, a quick poll to say like, hey, merchants, are you also weighing some heavy choices right now? And like, so many of us are, so few are not. It's kind of, we're in good company, I would say. And if you are weighing heavy choices too, I think you're gonna like this episode. I think that there are too few creatives sharing their experiences, but how their experiences are shaping their pragmatic choices, because we're so in it right now. I also think that we can do a more active, proactive, mobilizing job of recruiting our brand values to help us make those difficult choices. And so that's what we're here to talk about today. So I am super excited to welcome you to Retail Charm School. Retail Charm School is a video-based show for Merchant Method, and I'm your host, Chris Gill. I am an educator, I am an entrepreneur, I'm a retailer like you, and my work in the show is 100% dedicated to helping you build a dream business and a dream job. That's what I'm here to do. And in this season, I'm introducing you to my friends because I think there's so much we can learn from other people that are doing things both in our industry and outside of our industry. And this is the right time to expand ourselves just a little bit more so we can get a big picture view before we start digging in and moving forward. So I am joined today, and she will be joining me here in the interview room shortly, by Rebecca Jaramillo. And what we're basically talking about is we are talking about, really, it's a very parlor style conversation, really. And by parlor style, I mean it's exploratory. We're going to be really honest with ourselves. We're going to be curious. We won't have every answer, but it does not mean that we avoid the question. And we're talking about worth and choice making, both in life and in business. So the three things that Rebecca has graciously agreed to come on the show and explore is this intersection of personal and business values. We're also going to talk about objections and blindsiding moments. Them's the worst. And then assessing the risk and taking like just a really, really big leap. And so that's what she's here to talk about with me today. So if you're joining me live, thank you so much. I see you, Twyla, Sam Slater Studios, East Avenue Press, Jen from Meadowlark Store. Y'all are here. And thank you so much. I promise when I say it would not be the same here without you. And I'm really grateful that you're here to love up on Rebecca because she's got a lot to share. I also want to give a shout out to Megan from Bon Voyage Vintage. She said, thank you so much for being such an amazing teacher and sharing this amazing series with all of us. You are magical. It's not me that's magical. It's our guests. It's the guests that make it magical. So thank you. Hopefully you know right now that whether you're watching on desktop or whether you're watching on your phone, you can submit a question or a comment that Rebecca and I can feature on the screen. That makes it really, really helpful for us to read it, to feature it, and then to really like think about it and conundrum about it. So please feel free to use that feature. And I'm here, I'm taking notes. I've got notes. So feel free to take notes, grab some water, and think about this question. This is the question for the day. And I have it playing in the back of my head as I take in all this awesome information from Rebecca, is how do you make the tough choices easier? So the question is, and hey, Andre, hi, Vicky, how do you make the tough choices easier? All right, so let us bring in the glorious Rebecca. Here's some information to know about this beautiful soul. And this is how really she presents the work that she does, both in the jewelry and in the graphic design. Bringing meaning and intentionality to everyday jewelry, Rebecca J blends elemental metals with modern textiles, uniting an organic, wanderlust aesthetic where each piece tells a unique story inspired by life, motherhood, and travel. Oh, Rebecca. She's joining us now, and I am so, so, so excited. And if you have, oh, Rebecca, hi.
Hi.
I'm so happy you're here.
I'm happy to be here. Hang on, let me adjust this so I can be in. There we go.
Perfect. Now, there's no way, I mean, I could take a whole hour to describe you and your work. So I would love for you to introduce yourselves to our merchants. We have a lot of friends in common and a lot that are new both to me and to you.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of people and friends here that I love. So I'm happy to see them keep popping up. So yeah, I'm a jeweler, a mom, a wife, and a friend. And those things are kind of like my most important values about myself. And I work out of a home studio in West Seattle. Yeah, I don't know. What else?
That's perfect. Because we're gonna like mine for gold today. And you know, before we do, as I like sit and get really comfortable, I put like one leg under the other. We're getting right here. Do you have any fun rituals or things that you do or say or songs that you listen to before you make a really big choice?
No. I tend to be a little bit like laborious when I make decisions. And as an example, that's not like a pressing one, but we just put in a deck in the backyard, and I wanted to get some furniture for it. And it wasn't something that I had been thinking about doing for a while. Like our kitchen, we've been talking about and dreaming about. And so over the course of the time of developing that idea, I was able to like go on Pinterest and like pin things together. And by the time I knew, by the time we had to pick tile, I knew what I was looking for. But still, that's a long time to make like it was a long process to do that. So I woke up on Monday and it was raining, and I went and got my coffee, and I was so excited. I was like, okay, I'm going to make my choices today for the furniture that I'm going to put on this deck. And of course, it had to be budget conscious and super cute and picture worthy and all of those things. And also, like, I like to entertain, COVID aside. I like to have people over to like hang out and chill and feel comfortable and feel warm and welcomed. And so it had to hit all of those notes. I kid you not, I woke up at like, I don't know, 7:30 or whatever, made my coffee. I laid back in bed, and I don't think I pushed the buy button until about 5:30 p.m. Like all day long, I was sitting there making this choice. And when you asked me this question on choice, I was like, oh my God, I am very laborious when I make decisions. And I often need people like you, Chris. I had to call in my neighbor and have her come and look at the space and look at the things that I had chosen. And then I had to like make sure that those were right. And I had to like ask other people what they thought about it too. So I'm not like a super decisive person, I would say, about myself. It takes me a long time to make decisions. I'm sorry, the cat is scratching at the door, so I'm gonna have to go open the door.
Yeah, no problem. Like this, but this is real, like real life. So what I can appreciate about this story, and you got so many hearts in this story, is that over the course of like a year or a year and a half, I put a quiz out there to try and understand like success styles, like what makes someone successful. And it's super easy to think like, oh, I should be more this or I should be more that. But where people find success is in where they've already found their past successes. And for you, that's as a creative entrepreneur. It's like what I would call a creative entrepreneur, someone who really likes to think about things, who invites the influence of others, who's open to brainstorming and collaborating. Like, you're so good at collaborating. Most of the people that have taken, like the hundreds of people that have taken that quiz, most of us fall in this creative entrepreneur space. Yeah. And then on at each end is like the maverick, the like fly by the seat of your pants, really impulsive. Yeah. We all have a little bit of that. Yeah. And then on the other end is the super planner, paper, pen, pencil, spreadsheet loving, planner loving, and we all have a little bit of that too. Yeah. But I think this is why our conversation is gonna give me some opportunities to reflect too. Yeah. So we, like, Rebecca and I are not to be self-serving. We're totally not. Like, I feel like we're two people like you that are pretty egoless. But would you like to share a little bit about how we met, Rebecca? Because I think when we did, you and I had both a lot of business, personal life intersecting, and then we intersected. And I think that will set the stage. Yeah. Yeah.
So I met you at Renegade Craft Fair. It was maybe it might have been my second time vending there, and I'm pretty sure it was winter. And I was in the back corner, and you came up, and I did feel like I was in a place of like desire for change and not really knowing what that was. And you came in and asked me some questions, and I was so blown away by your questions. Like, felt very I remember like, who's that girl? Like, what the heck? You just asked me very distinct business questions, and you were so curious, and so your questions came from a place of knowledge and or knowing, I guess, and or experience maybe. And so I was immediately met with this very curious desire to talk more to you and to know you and to understand why you knew so much. Like, I was like, give me some of that. Give me some.
And I think how I would describe our meeting is, I think you all know this. I've been pretty transparent about it. I am like an introvert, and I could like know you online, and then once I come face to face with you, I am so awkward because I'm so shy. And not to say that I put a persona, because I don't. I'm like, you just take me as I am. I feel like I don't know how to be, like personified. And I like coming to these types of shows and venues at the end, right? And that's how we met at the end, where I felt like I could be more comfortable and you could be more comfortable, and we could just like really talk about the things that were really interesting to us. And then, you know, I invited Rebecca over for coffee at a studio that I had because I didn't feel like I could work from home. And I think we like shared moments. We had goosebumps. We had like dry eye, like wet eyes, not dry eyes, wet eyes.
I've been thinking about how like magical, look at you guys, I'm like tearing. It was really, like, I think like when you get to those places where your path crosses with someone that you need in your life, that helps you get to where you need to be, that's what happens. The magic happens, the goosebumps happen, the tears happen. And honestly, I walked away from that cute studio, by the way. It was very I walked away from that space feeling like, okay, I know now. That's what I need. Like that, I felt before like I didn't know what the answer was. And then I walked that cross paths with you and I'm like, yeah, that's where I need to go. I need to invest in my business. I need to invest in myself. And I'm hiring Chris because she's amazing. And I have since told so many people about you.
And I felt for me, at that point, I wasn't working with makers yet. I don't know if you knew that. I wasn't working with makers. I was working with retailers super strictly. And it was like,
Chris, that I did not know that, but I think that was very obvious. Not obvious, but like the knowledge that I wanted was, what does it look like to be a buyer? Like, what does it look like to like, I needed that information from you, like to feel like I was doing the right thing. And also your pragmatic way of like being able to understand things on this linear way. I'm like all over the place. And you are like, you can see things backwards and forwards, and I can't do that. And so that to me, like when you were talking about working for, I think it was Gap or something like that. And you were talking with this story has stuck with me since you told me that. So it was like, you were talking about buying fabric from whoever to make the jeans or whatever it was. And to understand the scope of like how many jeans you need, how much of this you need, and like all the crap in between, I was like, oh my God, like the scope of that was so much more than what I do in my little, you know, tiny studio with these small castings. It was so much more to me. And I'm like, oh my God, somebody that understands the little tiny bits of pieces along the way and how that works and how to negotiate those things was so valuable to me. And so it didn't matter to me that you hadn't worked with makers before, and it still doesn't matter to me that you hadn't worked with makers, but I felt that your scope of knowledge was so valuable for me to understand the back end of my business.
Oh, I'm going to give you a little love now too, and then we're going to like move on to invite other people into our conversation. I think what
clarify this by saying we're not self-serving, and we're not.
Okay, we're not. I think what you gave for me at that point was this like huge affirmation, like, yes, there's really not a secret to it, but no one's sharing the information. 100%. And then no one's taking it and saying, you don't need this size screwdriver, you need this size screwdriver. Right. And I think like that's where we met, right? Yeah. And so I feel like over these years, I've seen in so many of our creative community, and for you as well, a clear intersection and a really good interdependence between your personal values and your business values. I think that's what makes the appeal of owning your small business illustrious and really painfully sexy, like painfully sexy, right? How do you know when they're starting to butt up against each other? And when you need to actually like press the pause button and really pick up a situation and examine it, because a situation is calling both to clash a little bit.
I mean, it's so like in my laborious decision making and things take a long time. I definitely think when they're butting up against each other, you know, because it's so hard, because when they align, it's also hard. And when they butt up against each other, there's also hard decisions that need to be made. And so it's really hard to know when it's not working sometimes. I think in the process of my business, you know, I guess I wanted to say, what I want to say about this is that I've been working for this goal of not working my day job for a really long time. I graduated from school in 2004, I think. And it's always been my goal to not work for somebody else and to just work for myself. And so that's a really long time ago. And I'm still working to attain the goal. And that is one of my huge, like one of the most, like the biggest goal for my business. I mean, I can look at my dollars and be like, I want to make more this year and I want to make more this year. But for me, that's been one of the biggest goals. And so it's hard for me to look at it and say, there's so many times over the course of decision making where I could have said, this is too hard. This is taking too long. That must mean that it's not the right thing. Mm. And so perseverance, I guess, has been really important. I mean, clearly, I graduated in 2004. We are now in 2020. That's a really long time to be working for one goal. However, there's been lots of small goals along the way. So hang on, I'm going to go to my notes really quick.
Okay.
Because I did come up with a few good things.
And if you're just joining us, we're talking about how creative entrepreneurs determine worth and make choices.
Okay, so like I was saying, I've been working for this goal for a long time, and it's felt like a waiting game. And in the opposite to this question was how you had asked me when you know that they're intersecting. And so that's been hard for me to describe how it feels exactly the opposite, because it doesn't always. I think they really, they mimic each other. And I think the biggest thing that you could take away from that is that I mean, you have to understand what your personal values are. And the personal values are that I want to be real. I want to be connected to my people. I want to be honest, always honest. I like to be able to tell my story and to talk about who I am in real life, and my family. And those are the legit reasons why I want to make jewelry. Those are the legit reasons why I want to have a business. And so when I'm not able to talk about those things or share those things, I guess that's a clear indicator that it's not right, and they're butting heads. I don't know if that was the clearest answer.
Are there clear answers? Like, honestly. And it's your answer, and it's perfect, exactly how it is. If you all, friends, if you're watching and you want to share how, you know, this happens for you, how you know that your business values and your personal values are starting to butt up against each other when a specific situation comes up, can you share it in the comments? Because I think it'd be helpful for us.
Yeah.
For me, a couple of things happen for me. I feel like there's the same thought keeps popping up in my head because it feels insurmountable. And so I keep thinking about it.
Right.
And then I'll start to feel like no one understands, but that's because I've only been expressing it in here.
Oh, yeah.
And so as soon as it comes out of my mouth, it sounds like this. It's like, oh my God, and it just feels impossible. And I don't know what to do. It never comes across as sounding like even or thoughtful or like, it just,
oh my God, yes.
It doesn't ever sound like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's taken me years, since probably like 2012. I've been working on this intersection, and I've been working on like how to make really thoughtful choices that balance both. The fact that I am a work from home business owner, not a stay-at-home mom, and also not someone who works outside of the home, but I actually work from home and have school-age kids. Like, these things are intertwined for me.
Right.
And I feel like my values had to be in lockstep. Otherwise, I couldn't articulate them to myself. And I feel like I need the most convincing, right?
Yeah.
But that's how I know that it's a little bit off. So like for me, I value things like depth. And I feel like from a love language perspective, that's probably quality time, but like depth and intimacy. I value audacity, and not from like the big F you, like kiss my butt, not like that, but just like doing it your way. It doesn't have to be anyone else's way. So like these are the kinds of things I value. So Devin from My Twins Lens Photography says, probably when I book a client that I feel in my gut is not right. Yeah, it's the gut feeling and learning to listen to how the body calibrates it, because the body responds faster than the brain.
Right.
Kara from Kara Malloy says, when this happens for me, I lose IG followers. And I think this is a great thing to keep aligning values and audience. Yes, I love that. I love the thing.
I want to clarify with Kara. Does she mean when you do something of value that you really appreciate that you lose Instagram followers, like something that you really wanted to hold on to, or was it something that didn't align with who you were and they decided that they didn't want to be with you anymore? I hope it's the reason that she stuck true to who she is and she lost followers because she was being fully aligned with herself. I hope that's what it means, because I think that is a valuable thing in that point. Okay, good, Kara.
Yes. Kara says yes.
Yeah, yes, that's true. And I think that feels really, really true too, because I know my gut a lot of the time. Definitely think that I need a sounding board. And Chris, when you talking and you like let that thing out and it's like super high pitched and it's like really like high vibrating, like because it's not grounded and it's not focused and it's not well out yet. And that also is a really good indicator that maybe it's either, and I want to say too, like the hardest thing for me, high pitched feeling comes from me from fear and uncertainty. And those are not necessarily indicative of that's the hard for me, because I have felt for this whole time and that is just, it's not indicative that it's a bad idea. And that's the hardest part, is that maybe they're not, maybe they are butting up against each other, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's just not a bad idea. It's maybe they just need to work together to kind of come more in alignment, and that each side needs to kind of work together before that they can be aligned with your values. So my one of the biggest things I want to say is, like, I've been working at this for a really long time. I still haven't made the freaking leap to quit my job, and it's been one of my goals, but I still know that it's the right thing. And even though it feels like it's butted up against a lot of things along my path, I'm still choosing that choice. And it's been hard and scary. And my worst fear, and this is, I think if I were on my own, just as myself, and not having a family, I probably would have made the leap and just said, fuck it, a long time ago. But the hugest part of my life is my family. And I don't ever want to destroy any of that for any reason, regardless of my business or not. And so at the core of everything I do is, how can I make this work for my family?
Right. It's that intersection, right, of the emotional intrigue, the emotion and the pragmatic is like that intersection. And Devin also says it's hard to leap when you're single too. Yeah, the leap is hard. You had said something that reminded me of a story. So, which is the whole, like, why do I this and why do I that, right? Like when you're doing something like you butt up against an objection or something that feels blindsiding, like why this, why that? how come I can't this? How come I can't that? And it was really reframed for me by a behavioral therapist as like, it's not what's wrong, and more a thought of, oh, how like me? How like me that I don't enjoy this? How like me that this makes me nervous? How like me that there's nothing else other than how like me? And so even in moments where I have a lot of physical processing before I do something like hit the like button or prepare, it doesn't mean anything other than, oh, how like me. And so my question for you as we start to stabilize here in our live streaming is, overcoming objections from other people is really important. Recovering from blindsiding moments is really important, but I feel like maybe we don't always talk about like when we are the big roadblocks to the thing that we want to do, right? Like owning a business or being a creative is like you versus you. And so I'm really curious, like you take risks over and over again, and you've gotten out of your way multiple times to do that. Like, are there moments where you're just like, oh, how like me? And now I'll move on. Do you have your version of that?
I definitely, how like me, but sometimes I don't say the how like me until it's like hindsight. When I look back at the decision that I made and I understand then why I made it, and I can say how like me. So there's kind of that like hindsight is 2020 kind of thing. With the phrase your question one more time, because I have like kind of thoughts coming from like 8 different directions right now. Okay. And I want to hear your question.
I'm going to read it.
Yeah.
So Rebecca and I are both note takers. I feel like every guest I've had is a note taker.
Yeah.
So I feel like you've gotten better at assessing the risks and taking trust falls. And doing that over and over again. I'm curious how you've gotten there.
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna go back to my notes. Okay.
Hi,
Luca. Small child saying hello. Luca, that's my little girl. I would say that my trust falls come from having made enough choices to understand that 2020 and getting better at that decision-making process. But it's kind of like let's see how it goes. That is come to me to understand. I don't have to be laborious thing. I can just say, let's give it a whirl. And also there's a little bit of, okay, she's gone now, but the fuck it. Like, who cares if it's not the right decision? I'm going to learn something from this. And every decision that I've ever made for myself, I learned something. And that is what I was supposed to learn from that decision, even if it wasn't the initial output that I was looking for. And and there's something to learn. And I think baking bread has been a really good analogy for me in this decision-making process. I've never really liked science. I've never really liked baking. But something about the sense and the bread baking and this like really beautiful out at the end, this wonderful loaf of bread, and it's always edible, even if it's wrong. Like even if it's too doughy or it's burnt on top or whatever, my family still eats it and it's still really good, like regardless of it being or not. And I think that's the best analogy for decision making, is that there's something edible from the choice that you make, whether you buy the wrong packaging and it was really expensive and you realize that later, you'll know not to buy that packaging again. and or buy all these castings and I'm going to go hard, delve deep and get that cost down. And then you end up sitting on those castings for a really long time. I mean, those are kind of minuscule little decisions, but those are the ones that like hinder me a lot, where I'm like, oh, what do I, do I go, I don't know, and I do that for a long time. But I think analyzing this from your question and looking at myself in that 2020 of the decisions that I've made, the trust fall is really sometimes you just got to do it. Just say F it and do it.
Yeah, this is resonating with Vicky from Corporate Artifact. She's saying so true. Sam from Samantha's Later Studio saying such a great analogy. Yeah, it's really resonating. I feel like my thing is like very like personally related, but did you know this, Rebecca? I learned how to swim last year. And like,
are you telling me that?
Yeah, I learned how to get better at swimming. I've like learned how to swim. I watched YouTube videos on like how to float in water. And that felt risky to me. It felt like a life or death situation because I was going to be on a boat for like 11 days in the middle of the Mediterranean Sea. And I didn't know how to swim, but I wanted to be there. And I also didn't want to like tether myself to the boat. I wanted to feel like if I wanted to be in the water or if I got thrown into the water, by a big wave, that I could survive. And so it was a lot of this like emotional, like removing the objections for myself. And I read this book it's by James Cleary, Atomic Habits. And it was really about like optimizing the start. And the thing that I had to remind myself over and over again is that the goal isn't swimming. The goal is to learn to swim, right?
Right.
It's just like, I can't think about the Mediterranean. I have to think about getting myself to the parking lot. Like, this is like what it was. Like, if I got to the parking lot, awesome. And so for me, a lot of it has been around like, just do the thing. Don't worry about winning the thing. And so like over and over again, like I remember in November, like right before Black Friday, I just had this like buck wild idea to run a Black Friday promo. And it felt so dumb at the time. And it felt so thoughtless because y'all are busy. But then at the same time, I had to like dig in deep to say like, what are my values? And I felt like this served my highest values as a business owner and as a person. And I was like, I just have to do the thing. That's it. Just do the thing. And then like, that's what I want to do. And the results, like whatever the results are or whatever the results are. And so the next time I had to do it, it's like, I'm just doing the thing. If I just keep fine tuning, that's kind of like how I get over the part of myself that just wants to run away from everything. Yeah.
Right.
I feel like it's, and then you just get to know yourself better, right? You just get to know yourself better. Right. It was interesting. Go ahead.
No, I just definitely think that there's a knowing yourself and know a struggle for you, like preparing yourself to get to the boat. It's like knowing that there in that moment is going to be a struggle. I think that's really important when you're, dealing with those objectifying things.
Mm-hmm. I'd asked in a poll, like, how are you all with understanding this intersection between your personal values and your business values, and then feeling like you know how to navigate. And like this has been fluctuating, but it's basically like a 3-to-1, where like about 75% of people are like feel really comfortable and like 25 don't. But I feel like even when we feel really comfortable, it doesn't mean that the choices are any easier. They're just like clearer, right? And then like it's clear that you're picking up the hot poking piece of metal versus like, oh, there's a piece of metal, like it's there,
right?
So I want to go back for all of us, like back to the question of the day, which is, how do you make tough business choices easier?
Mm-hmm.
And sticking with this like metaphor of the trust fall, I'd love to know, like, are there maybe pragmatic things when it comes to running your business that help you with that, whether it is picking a vendor, like a vendor partner, or deciding, it really, really relevant right now, particularly in this moment, is like who you're going to partner with in a creative collaboration. You're really, really good at that. Like, you're very good at the collaboration. Like, how do you know that you can trust yourself to take the trust fall, and how do you assess others in that process?
I am 100% a feeler. I find myself emotionally connected to people and know from the get-go that it's the right thing. Someone's comment came up earlier, and I don't know what the question was, but it was just kind of meeting with that client and knowing that it was the right thing. There's like that gut feeling that it just feels good to be with them. For me, collaborations, I'm immediately drawn to someone's work or their voice or their person. And oftentimes I don't feel like I go out looking for a collaboration, just as in that example, but I don't feel like out looking for a collaboration, but I feel like two souls, two ships pass in the night and we find each other, like I just feel that there isn't much assessing that needs to happen for me in that kind of situation, because I know that I like them. I know that I want to be with my creative, like, volcano inside is suddenly just kind of like going crazy.
Okay, so that comment was from Kara. When you'd asked her about losing followers, she wrote, and what resonated with you is, I'm absolutely okay with losing them and attracting those that truly align with me. And I love what you said. I'm 100% a feeler. Like, you said that, and I wrote it down, and then I circled it, and I loved it.
Yeah.
That you're emotionally connected to people. And it's interesting because you said two ships passing in the night. That is exactly what you said after our first meeting. And we had joked about being two ships that found each other.
Oh my God. That's so weird. Maybe it's just an analogy I use all the time. That's crazy.
But I mean, I feel like that's true, right? There's, it's all about just connecting at the right time, at the right frequency, with the right, it's all of that comes into play. Wow. Is there like anything right now that you feel like, a choice that you've made recently where you're feeling like, I feel really good and I feel like I'm standing in this really good place between business and personal? I'm just like kind of like curious.
I lost you for a second and I didn't hear your question.
I'm curious if you've made a choice like recently in the last like week or two where you feel really good about standing in this intersection between business and personal values.
Okay. Yeah. So, if anybody that's here knows me and knows my story, I was geared up to quit my day job, which has been my goal for forever, April 29th. And, COVID didn't seem like a really good time to have that happen. It just seemed like probably wasn't a safe place. The certainty that I had around my business, making money with wholesale, doing trade shows, going to markets, public events, those are all parts of my business that I require to make money and to make this viable for my family. And so I chose to not put in my notice and not quit my job. My friend the other day, this is a kind of tangent to that. My friend the other day said, she's like, when you say my job and you're talking about my work with Costco, she was like, you say quit your job and then you still have another job. She was like, this is your job. So quit one of my jobs. Um, so when I decided that it's not a good idea. We need healthcare. I need something certain. And so even though it's really hard for me and I'm sad and I spent probably a good, I mean, I still want to cry when I think about it, um, about having to go back to work at Costco because I'm still going to work for myself. I'm still going to be here in my studio. Um, but it's just, I just keep reminding myself that I've been doing this for like the last 16 years or whatever, and it's going to look the same right now. It's just going to look the same as it has the last 16 years. And I was really excited for 2020 to look really different for me. Um, the really curious and unique and cool thing about the COVID-19 um, stay-at-home order has been that, and also simultaneously my job with Costco is that I was allowed to take an unpaid leave of absence. And so they maintained my health insurance for me, and I've been able to stay home with my family. I've been able to educate my child who's in 6th grade. It's not easy to do. It's been
No, it is not.
oh my God, it's been so hard to navigate that path together with her. My husband is working from home. So with the CNET of working for Costco and also the safety net of being able to stay home with my family and keep my health insurance, I was able to really examine and look at my life in the way that I wanted it to be. And so I'm home, I'm working from the studio. I have, aside from the stress of being a teacher for my child and that kind of, I really felt this incredible sense of like, oh, it can happen. It might not be the right time, but it was really telling to me and to my husband that we're just going to wait a longer, but this is still going to happen. I'm still going to quit my job. I'm still going to work full time for myself. It just needs to be postponed a little bit, but we have conversations about what it looked like when I'm not working at Costco anymore. And so we've got to make a few adjustments and a few changes here, but I just felt so fortunate to be able to have this time to safely try it on for days and to see what it looks like when I'm fully immersed in being creative and in my business all day long and not having to like let it go and work for somebody else and use my creative brain for them. And even though it was different, I thought 2020 was going to look for me. I'm okay pivoting right now, and I'm so excited to that. And I feel like it was like I got this free taster to know that I liked that cream flavor, you know, like
I got to free Costco taster.
Yeah, which there aren't any samples right now. Don't go to Costco.
So Karen says, yeah, Karen says, good for you. It's okay to make a living from a job while you build your business. And then Devin says there's a lot of loss for everyone to deal with from the pandemic. It's across so many industries. The wedding industry is basically moving all to next year, but this is the year to work on your back end step to prep for a successful next year. Yeah. And I feel like there's been this gift. So I've been running, like what I didn't tell people in 2019 and 2018 was that I was running my business part-time, because in 2016 I'm like, enough of this. I'm like, was working way too much, and like someone else was having moments with my kids, and I'm like, I can hear them in the backyard having moments that I couldn't have. And I'm like, no, this is not what I wanted to do. But I didn't actually do it with a lot of intention. And so at the beginning of this year, I made the choice to be very thoughtful and to be more forward in the communication. That Merchant Method runs like a school. And so I had this dream, and I know you and I got together to talk about like having 6th graders, that my 6th grader and I would co-work, and it just did not go down that way. I was not graceful. I didn't handle it well. It was really, really tough. And we weren't co-workers, and it was a huge adjustment. And I thought that we were never going to achieve that for the year.
Right.
And as soon as school started, being home and we were all co-working, it took me just a few weeks to be like, holy smokes, this is exactly what I wanted. I wanted
Yes.
us to figure out how to co-work. I wanted
Right.
me to figure out who I am as a business owner that supports supports students at home.
Yeah.
And to take the time to find the grace, because it took a few weeks. It was ugly in the beginning,
Totally.
but it's been,
It was
yeah, it's been like this opportunity to figure it out and to feel like trying to understand how I am going to navigate it differently. Because all my usual tips and like all my usual things are not working for me in this moment. And giving myself the grace of a learning curve. And all of that goodness. Oh my gosh. Rebecca, thank you so much for joining me. Can you please tell everyone how they can follow you and find you online?
Yeah. I would say Instagram is probably the main place to see, hear, and talk to me. And I'm at Rebecca J Designs. And also my website. Yeah. Or FaceTime me, call me, shoot me an email. I'm game to have a conversation with anybody. I think that's kind of been one of the brightest spots of this stay-at-home order. I've been able to have so many more engaging conversations with makers and business women alike. And I have a coffee date with Kristen from Urban Craft Uprising tomorrow, nice. And also one with Sam Slater. I see you, Sam. And they have been so joyful for me to feel like I'm on the same or a similar journey with friends, and just to have someone who understands life and business like yours, Chris, where we can meet at the same plane and make happen together is, and this feels magical to me, to be able to have a conversation like this and share. And I value this so much. And call me more.
I value it too. Thank you so much. And thank you all for tuning in live. This is a special bonus episode. Rebecca agreed to come to the show before she returns to work. And so I appreciate you for being here, Rebecca. I appreciate you for being with me today. But you will find me here next week, Tuesday at 10 a.m. Pacific. Are you ready to dance out to a little bit of music? I don't know if I can get it really loud, but I want to dance us out to a little bit of music.
Oh yeah.
Okay. We'll see if it's loud enough. It's not loud enough.
I'm like, is it happening?
Only I can hear it, apparently.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. You all have a good day. Enjoy whatever sun you might have. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Chris.
Thank you. Love you. Bye. Oh, here we go. We got our music.
Oh, can you hear it?
Oh, it's just me. I'm just dancing over here.
Okay, I'll do it.
Oh, shimmy. Bye.
Bye.